the future is, but it'll never be our past. You can distance in your world, you'll never ever change the past. Hey everybody, it's Fight Club Hobbs. Welcome to another wonderful episode of GVN Live. We are back from our couple-week hiatus, and we apologize for making you wait, but hey, the last couple of weeks are going to definitely make it something worth waiting for, because holy shit, the internet decided to go crazy for us, and we are going to talk about it. With me, as always, is Mr. Mark B. Writing, and unfortunately, Jan can't join us today. She is off doing her job, and she should hopefully rejoin us in the next episode. Cross your fingers on that. If the project, doesn't extend itself. Anyway, Mr. Mark B. Writing, how are you today, sir?
I mean, I'm better than I was, but still not as good as I would like to be. And I'm just going to state for the record that I've had, terrible anxiety for the past couple of weeks, so I'm not apologizing to fucking anybody. Y'all can kiss my butt.
Hey, I mean, even if you're not at your best, that's still better than most people, to be truthfully honest, so. And
That's
I'm not
fair.
expecting 100% out of you. So, have you been playing anything at all? I mean, to try and calm your nerves with your anxiety?
I really haven't, honestly. It's just been, waiting for the new medications that I'm on to kick in. I just haven't really been in the position to, play anything. I haven't been in the position to write anything. It's just very agitating.
Okay.
We did board game night on Saturday. That was about it.
Thank you for the invite, by the way. Apologize I couldn't.
And no, it's fine. I made sure I told, I at least told Kane. I don't remember if I told everybody else, but I at least told Kane that the second, which would be, I think it's the second, first, whatever the day is that we agreed on for June, would be the next board game night, and he was like, "That's fine." So,
okay, is Kane the co-host that runs your board games?
no, he's just one of the people that routinely shows up. I've stopped doing, as I say, I stopped doing them bi-weekly just because it was too much of a chore to try and get a full cast to do it on a bi-weekly basis. And frankly, there's not a lot of people who are watching the board game live streams over the gaming live streams. So it's just I wasn't going to go out of my way to try and make that particular type of stream happen. So it was just we just do it once a month, and he's just one of the people I mentioned it to who's going to be there. So
cool. All right, so I'm hoping I'm allowed to get off. I will definitely be putting in. So anyway, in regards to me, I just haven't really been playing a whole lot myself. I mean, there's a couple games that are coming out that I'm looking forward to. In a couple weeks is the new Atelier game, Lalua. I'm actually a big fan of that franchise, starting all the way back, thanks to Mr. Alexander Lecard for allowing me to review Maruru back on Die Hard Game Fan, and that's how I became a fan of the franchise. Not much else, really. I mean, I tried picking up Sekiro again, and I'm just it's not a hard, it's not a Dark Souls game, but it's a game with some difficulty. And I do have the patience to play it. It's just, for whatever reason, every time I pick it up, I'm just not really in the mood. I'm trying to force myself to play it.
yeah, I haven't been in the mood for one of those kind of games in a while. I, again, fully completed Dark Souls 3. I did a little bit of the Surge on the live stream, but it's just I haven't felt the want or the need to play through a game of that sort in a while, which I think, might be due to the anti-anxiety stuff that I've been dealing with, but it's also just the fact that I just don't have anything left to prove to myself, and I'm not in that position where playing that sort of a game is satisfying to me on an accomplishment level. So it's kind of a case where I'm at the point where I don't need for my gaming media to be challenging. I need it to present something to me that is artistically interesting or narratively interesting and so on. And Nio did not give me the sense that I was going to take anything away from that, that I had not already seen before.
Yeah.
The Surge did not give me the indication that I was going to get anything out of it, frankly. And Sekiro, I'm sure will probably like have something to it from a narrative perspective. I just don't have the patience for that kind of a game right now, especially given that it works off of a parry system more than anything else. It's just like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like when Souls-esque games, when games of that type further attempts to restrict the mechanics that are available to the player, it interests me less, I guess.
Yeah, the parry system is just like it's way too essential to the combat, and that's kind of like a turnoff for me. I mean, I don't mind having to guard and then do a just guard to get the parry and get the counterattack and all that stuff. I mean, I don't mind that, but when it's almost essential, like to the game, like for the majority of the game, it's kind of a turnoff for me. I do want to play Sekiro. I mean, it's a game that does fascinate me. It's just I just haven't been in the mind frame to play it. Lately, I've been going back and I've been doing my Monster Hunter Mondays. I actually got back into Phantasy Star Online Blueburst. Me and my Wednesday night crew are playing that again. That game is, I don't know why I keep going back to fucking Blueburst. It's such a good game, but it's like, why can't we move on from this game to play something else? We just can't get away from it. 18, 19 years later, we're still playing Phantasy Star Online. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, if there's not anything that's fulfilling that particular need, there you go.
Well, I mean, there's Phantasy Star Online 2, and I really enjoy that game as well. It's just that the rest of my crew just doesn't enjoy it as much as I do, so. But I'm still happy playing Blueburst whatsoever, so. But, moving on, we have some interesting topics to talk about today. Randy Bitchford is going crazy on Twitter. Riot Games had a bunch of their employees perform a walkout today. About 150 employees walked out in the afternoon. And the Sanic trailer dropped. And it dropped face first onto the concrete pavement. And you know what? That actually sounds like a good place to start. Let's talk about that Sanic trailer.
Okay.
It's a thing that happened. It is a scary thing that happened. The movie in and of itself could just be a stupid, fun film. But that's not what people are complaining about. They're complaining about one thing, and it's just the Sonic the Hedgehog model. And I'm not a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog model at all. I think it's stupid. I honestly was not part of the group of people who thought that the trailer was fine outside of the model. I thought the trailer was just way too much cheese and ham-fistedness, and it's just a Jim Carrey movie, pretty much. And I think the only thing about Paramount coming out and saying that they're going to redo the Sonic the Hedgehog model for that film is just going to make the film just slightly more watchable, because now I won't be groaning every time I see that thing on screen. But the one interesting thing I have to say about this whole reaction to the internet culture about the Sonic the Hedgehog model is, I mean, some guy was pointing this out on Twitter saying, hey, maybe this is a plant by Paramount to build hype up around the movie. Like, maybe they actually have an actual good model of Sonic waiting in the background, and they're just using this bad trailer to build publicity for it, to get hype for the good-looking model that they're going to unveil. And then you have to sit there and realize that 6 months ago, when they gave out the teaser posters for this ad, everyone was moaning and groaning about how garbage the teaser images looked. I can't really believe that theory whatsoever. And Mark, what do you think about that?
Well, let's start with the Sonic model, because I have thoughts about the trailer.
I mean, I have thoughts about trying to make the transition of a Sonic model into a real-world model, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Okay. So, I tend to agree with Dan Olsen on this one, where, like, somebody asked him on Twitter, Dan Olsen, Foldable Human, is a YouTube content creator who makes videos that fall into generally two categories: video game stuff and film stuff. Video game stuff is like he's an enthusiast like we are, but film stuff he has actually worked on films, like the actual creation of films. Like that's his full-time job when he's, making his money to pay the bills. And like he essentially said, the funniest part about the director of Sonic promising to redesign and replace the lead character in the next 6 months is that it encapsulates how the movie got like this in the first place and can only make things worse. To which somebody said, well, either that or this was planned from the start to create noise about the movie and they have a proper Sonic model already and just using a stand-in for the trailers. Dan's entire response was, no. Now, here's the thing. As he notes, even dumbass studio executives don't deliberately gamble with poisoning their brand. They do it by accident often enough. If they were committed to a redesign, they wouldn't have dropped a trailer when they could have easily held the trailer off until June without it being weird because the movie doesn't come out until November. And, like, this is the thing. There is no reason for them to invest the kind of money involved in making that trailer just for the bad reaction it would create if they already have a model waiting. And they knew from the beginning that people did not like the design of their Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, they have known for months at this point. If they continued moving onward with it instead of vowing to fix it when the first bunch of complaints came around, they're not doing this for hype. They're not doing this because they have a better Sonic already planned. If they had a better Sonic already planned, they would have announced it months ago, and it would have come with this trailer with them saying, we know y'all hated the design of the Sonic as we had originally brought it out to you guys. Here's what we've got now. So, like, from that perspective, it's, you're throwing away the money that was invested in making this trailer, the money that was invested in having VFX people animate this, put this together, all of the work that was put into designing this thing, rigging this thing, all of that. This is, like, probably, I don't have an exact number, but if I had to guess, there's probably like $1 million on the screen there. And you're just going to be like, oops, Chuck. People generally do not do that unless they are doing like a hard pivot. Like, this is Square Enix deciding that the Quiet Man is actually supposed to be a dumpster fire on purpose and marketing as such levels of pivot at this point. This is them saying, oh fuck, we're going to fix this. This is going to, if this doesn't push the film back, this is the thing. Like, the film as it is right now, I have no problems with what they have put up on the screen. I mean, I do have one problem. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Which character are we talking about?
The general dude that was there, the Jim Carrey, the Dr. Robotnik was...
The name of the character or the actor?
Neil McDonough.
Okay.
Neil McDonough is the general in this film. I would have thought Neil McDonough is a good actor. I would have thought he would have fucking learned his lesson about video game movies when he was M. Bison in Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, but apparently he has a gambling problem. Because he's like, no, video game movies are alright, I'm gonna try another one. Really? Really, Neil? You didn't learn the first fucking time? Alright. You play M. Bison with a lilting Irish brogue. Do you not remember that? Like, was that a thing that you blanked on? Because I sure as shit remember that.
Yeah, with an angry Kristen Cruick coming right after him too.
Jesus Christ, fucking movie. But yeah, so that is unfortunate. Like Neil, buddy, you're an actor. You can do better than this. Jim Carrey really can't. He's kind of like on the tail end of his career, and they probably threw a shitload of money at him in any case.
Mm-hmm.
And Cyclops kind of can't because, he cashed in his chips betting on being in the Superman movies, and that ended up fucking him for a while. Like, they're kind of stuck here, but Neil, buddy, you can do better than this. Are you okay? Do you need help?
Wink once if
can
you're
crash on my
okay,
couch
twice
if
if
you
you
want
need
to.
help.
You can crash on my couch if you need to for a few weeks until you get your life in order. It's fine. But
okay, so here's
as far as
something.
the rest of the film goes, like the trailer goes, it's fine. It looks like a kid's movie.
That's what I expect it to be like, yeah. I mean, nothing about that film appeases me whatsoever. You look at Jim Carrey, he is playing a goofy character. That is going to appease the kids and make them laugh. The design of Sonic... What was I going to say earlier about this?
The thing is, shouldn't Sonic the Hedgehog be a kid's movie?
It should be, yes, because it's a new generation of Sonic the Hedgehog fans now in this day and age. I mean, this is the third generation now that we're coming upon. The first generation we had, the 2 cartoon shows, the 3 cartoon shows. People forget Sonic Underground existed, and, that's fine. And then you have the generation that grew up with, the 3D Sonic era and Sonic X the cartoon and the OVA movie. And now we're starting around with, I guess, the third generation that, Mania and what was the Generations game and everything from like a couple years ago and moving onwards. This is like, I guess you could say the third generation of Sonic fans, and they're getting a movie because Sega decided it was the time. And I can't exactly blame Paramount for the directions they're taking the film, because how exactly, without making this a full CG film, do you really translate a Sonic movie or Sonic game to film? I mean, especially with the way it's just, you just play the games. I mean, granted, the 3D games, they kind of are set in like almost a real world where you have humans and office buildings and downtowns and, armies and armadas and all that fun stuff. But still, there's this whole new level of like, surrealness to Sonic the Hedgehog character in regards to like, magic and all that stuff. And now you see a little bit of that. You watch the trailer, you see something like Sonic throwing a ring and it suddenly grows in size and it becomes a portal as the one main character and a female acquaintance fall through it, and it looks like they're going into an alternate dimension, which we only got a glimpse of.
I think it's supposed to be the character's wife.
Is it?
From what I read on the Wikipedia page, I think that's supposed to be Cyclops' wife.
Ah, okay. I do like the idea of, I mean, the presentation-wise, the Gangster Paradise song didn't seem to fit at all. I thought that was a bad choice. I think they should have maybe picked something a little bit more.
The trailer was very tonally dissonant.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I've seen people who were unhappy about it and people who were happy about it. Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston watched it and they thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people did not. For me, it's my issue is it's very tonally dissonant in that it kind of sort of seems like it's trying to play to what Sonic fans expect while also being a kids movie.
Yeah.
And that's very strange to me because like Sonic has a clearly defined suite of capabilities that he can perform as a character.
Mm-hmm.
He's very fast. He collects rings that, take a hit for him if he takes damage so that he doesn't die from it. He can get stuff out of little computer monitors. Some of that stuff is going to be difficult to translate to the big screen, sure. But the way that the trailer is showcasing the character is very different from what I expect of Sonic the Hedgehog, the character.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, the ring thing, as you said, is very strange. Like, it sort of plays off of the idea of him, like, jumping into the giant rings at the end of stages.
Yes.
But, like, that's not that's not a superpower that he has. It's just a visual representation for him clearing a stage. So that's kind of odd. And then the part where like he uses chaos control on like the top of the building and like destroys all of these robots is like,
Yeah, it's
okay.
like, is he gonna suddenly like that? Looks like something he's gonna like a power he's gonna develop maybe towards the end of the film. Um, it just seems really weird that they would just suddenly pull some random ability that Sonic gets after like his third or second entry in the 3D series of games, and they just throw it in a movie, and they don't seem to give or offer any form of explanation as to why he's able to do that.
I mean, they don't really need to. It's just a trailer, but
It is just a trailer.
it's very strange to me from a Sonic as a character perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just feels like the old movies that we would watch when we were kids, like the Mario Brothers movie, kind of.
Yeah.
In terms of, it feels like it might be an adequate movie, but it feels like it's going to be bad from a Sonic the Hedgehog perspective. But I mean, beyond that, the Gangster's Paradise as the song for it was like, this was
choice.
a song that was originally used for the soundtrack of a film about, like,
the film. I don't remember the film, but I remember the film. I can't remember the name, but it's a film about a teacher trying to reach a high school youth and keeping him off, the road to being a gangster and stuff like that.
Right. It was like in that particular time period. I don't remember the name of the film, but it was very much in the same vein as stuff like Do the Right Thing, Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
And also the those sorts of films where you would have the teacher show up and do whatever. So, okay, applying that to Sonic the Hedgehog feels weird to me, and I don't hate it necessarily, but I'm just sort of like, where are we going with this, guys? Like, do you have a unifying vision for where you're going with this? Because it just feels like this character combined with that song, combined with the stuff that you're showing me in this trailer, like the sequence at the end where it's like, do you have a child in that bag? No, I mean, yes, I do, but it's not my child.
That was the only scene that actually
like
got a giggle out of me, to be truthfully honest, because it was just such an awkward scene.
I mean, sure, but it's just like, I don't know where we're going with this.
No, I don't.
I'm gonna need you guys to give me a little bit more before I can really attempt to mentally parse what the hell is happening here.
Mm-hmm. Now the biggest thing about this film is really Jim Carrey, and everyone's pretty much just straight up saying that Jim Carrey is going to be the one that carries this film.
Oh yeah, he's fine. He's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how they're retooling Dr. Robotnik, and I guess what it's going to boil down to, because they showed a screenshot at the very end of the trailer of him looking like, the full-blown Dr. Robotnik, the blown-up mustache, the bald head, the goggles, the red coat. I'm assuming, because he is, in the trailer, they do explain that he is pretty much picked by the United States military against, all logical reason to find out what the hell is causing, power outages in the Western Hemisphere of the United States. And I guess he gets obsessed and he goes crazy, and that's the kind of the Dr. Robotnik we're going to get. I think we're going to see a slow descent of Jim Carrey being goofy to going goofy insane. So we're probably going to see like Ace Ventura, and then we're going to see The Mask in one movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Jim Carrey is a fine pick for your Dr. Robotnik. I feel like he has the comedic / crazy person chops to get the character over to the level that the character needs to be at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it's just a trailer at this point, so I don't really know what more we can say about it from what we've seen. Like, the fact that Sonic seems to be magic on some level is a little weird, but whatever. Like,
yeah, electrified fur.
Yeah, I just don't know what to think about it at this point.
Yep. the character of Dr. Eggman or Robotnik, in the games, you can even tell from the beginning, he was kind of like, he feels like a dopey, like weird, goofy villain to begin with, even in the 3D ones when they gave him more of a personality. And I can definitely see him, in a weird way being translated properly. I mean, not as a villain, but like as a evolving villain, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I can see him being like, probably the best part of the film easy. And I guess at the end of the day, it's all about that goddamn Sonic the Hedgehog model. And I really just want to say this real quick. For the last several months, we have been getting blown up with the Detective Pikachu trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And the CGI effects in that film have literally brought the Pokemon characters to life. They made them adorable and somewhat creepy, but they look amazing. They look accurate to their games. How the hell does Paramount not look at this and say, let's look at that Sonic model again and see how we can fix this just a little bit?
Well, they probably looked at the initial reaction to the Pokemon trailer and how it has evolved over time and thought, well, Sonic will get that. Because you have to recall, there was a not small amount of people at the time when the first Pokemon trailer for Detective Pikachu dropped who were like, ugh. And let's be clear, that was absolutely merited because, ugh,
Well, I was more put off just by how creepy Mr. Mime looked in that first trailer, and that's where I heard the majority of the people going, ugh.
Did you update the category, by the way?
Yeah, I did update it.
Because it's showing for me Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I hit live, I hit update, I don't know, did you hit F5, did you,
I just refreshed it just now.
Okay. But
yeah, Jigglypuff and Mr. Mime were really disconcerting to me as a trailer viewer. But it's, that opinion has evolved over time to like where everybody's just like, no, they're adorable, they're great, blah, 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 whatever. And that's, I'm thinking that that's probably what Paramount was hoping for was, people were going to see their Sonic and some people were going to be like, well, like this, they were just going to be like whatever with it.
They were just going to be like, we'll see what happens and hope for the best over time. And I have to say, though, I don't think I've ever really... I mean, we mentioned this earlier, but I just still can't believe that a movie studio just came straight out like literally a week after the debut of a trailer saying, sorry, we'll fix this. It just seems weird, to be truthfully honest. And I've never seen such a studio actually, take the public's opinion to heart like that. And I mean, I don't recall a time in history like that, but maybe you do.
Well, I mean, the thing you have to keep in mind is that we've kind of sort of gotten used to the idea of there being negativity presented at films that has had a degree of parody associated with it, where like the Ghostbusters film had a lot of negativity directed towards it, but it was from two groups of people, neither of whom the film was being marketed to. So like, Sony was not going to listen to them because people who were objecting to the fact that it was not a proper sequel were not going to be, listened to from a conversation perspective because that's not the movie they were making. And the people who were complaining that it was, female Ghostbusters was like, nobody was going to reasonably listen to them about anything. So you were kind of in the position where nobody was going to listen to that particular objection. A lot of the objections that have come out about films have been, or about like, content in general has been usually defined along those parody lines in some form or fashion. So there hasn't really been a position where film creators have had to listen to somebody. This has been a case where the vast majority is just like, no, your Sonic looks like shit and his teeth are creepy and weird. And like there's just been a universal reaction to that. Like people are memeing the Sonic teeth and like doing all kinds of crazy shit with it. It is a pretty universal what is this hell beast that you have put on the screen reaction. So it's across all boundaries, across all lines. There are very few people who are like, this is good. We're okay with this. So, you know, there's been positions where people have been mad about these sorts of films. There has very rarely been a position where people have been universally mad about a product during a time period where the internet has existed. Like, I think if Twitter existed when the Super Mario Brothers movie had been announced,
it probably would have gotten
trailers have
canceled.
been yeah, it would have. They would have like massively retooled.
And Dennis Hopper's career might have been salvaged.
And Dennis Hopper did okay for himself.
I mean, he did okay for himself, but let's be honest. Like the major roles that he got after that film were almost non-existent. And
I mean, he was old.
Yeah. Well, not as old, but anyway. But so the Sonic movie trailer happened. The Paramount response happened. I guess we wait a few months, see what they produce. I was probably
if that film doesn't get pushed back, I'll be fucking surprised. That's all I can say. And if that film does not get pushed back, I would absolutely feel as though
it was a marketing ploy.
No, I do not think it was a marketing ploy. I will, unless somebody actually comes out of the studio saying it was a marketing ploy, I will go to my grave saying it was not a marketing ploy, because that would be the stupidest goddamn thing you could do. No, if they don't push it back, like if they don't push it back, this movie's going to be fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so yeah, all that happened. Even if they didn't redesign Sonic, I probably would have still ended up taking my kids to seeing it. My 4-year-old is getting into Sonic the Hedgehog, so I probably would have taken him to see that. He wants to see Detective Pikachu, so I'm probably going to have to go see that soon. So moving on, speaking of horrible things, your favorite person was going crazy on Twitter last week, Mark. Good old Randy.
I thought we weren't talking about PewDiePie.
Okay, your second favorite person, Randy Pitchford.
Randy Pitchford isn't even in like the top 10 people I hate the most on social media. I got to be honest with you.
But he does seem to tickle your ire from time to time, though.
Because he's fucking stupid.
Yeah. So, well,
but he's not stupid in a hurtful way. He's just dumb.
Well, I would say he's stupid in a hurtful way as well, because did you see the last tweet from the guy who voiced?
I did. What I meant, like, I mean it more in a case of there are people who are stupid in ways that directly negatively impact the world around them in a broad fashion.
Like Riot Games, and we'll talk about that later.
Right, exactly. That sort of stuff is hurtful on a large scale. Assaulting one of your coworkers is bad, and you absolutely shouldn't do it, but like it's not the same thing. So it's like Randy is dumb, and it's unfortunate and frustrating to me that he has been given the degree of importance that he has been given in the gaming community for as long as he has. But I don't really care much about his existence outside of the fact of he said a dumb,
Yeah. So if you haven't been paying attention to Twitter, last week or during the unveiling of Borderlands 3, Randy said that they will not be doing microtransactions for Borderlands 3. Comes an article from Game Informer comes out stating that Randy says that there will be paid for DLC for mostly cosmetic enhancements in the game. Not gameplay enhancements or gameplay tweaks, but cosmetic DLC that you would be paying for, which they say is a microtransaction, and Randy lied.
Well, now to be fair to Randy Pitchford, which he does not deserve, let's be clear, but to be fair to him, it is certainly possible that he simply misspoke, that
it is.
He phrased things in a way that was not ideal, that he said the wrong thing in the wrong way, and this could have been cleared up very easily behind the scenes, if he had done the smart thing and had just reached out privately and been like, look, I misspoke, that isn't what I meant, can we please clarify this, they could have just put in an edit to that article and moved on with their day.
Okay, but what does he do? He decides to call him out on Twitter and uses his vast array of colorful words to attack the Game Informer reporter that wrote the article. To which, and I have not seen Andy do this in a long time, Andy McNamara comes out in defense of his team, standing up for the article, and blatantly goes into a nice little argument with Randy, to which Randy continues his verbal assault towards them instead of showing any form of decorum whatsoever. Not really defending himself so much as just being on the attack.
Yeah, like this is Ted DiBiase in the Cody Rhodes story.
Yeah.
This guy is like Randy Pitchford is fucking Ted DiBiase Jr. showing up, going, "Where's that article writer? He's trying to fuck on me."
Exactly.
And it's like, Randy, don't fucking have this conversation in public. Like, yeah, like he escalates even the smallest of situations that he finds himself in to a level of literally it goes from like a molehill to the hill he's going to die on. And like the way that he escalated this one was extremely fucking bad.
And it was mind-boggling too. I mean, all he had to say was, like you said, I misspoke. I didn't mean it in that terminology or what have you. And they could have cleared this up behind the scenes. No, he goes at it. Andy then bows out at some point, but now it's not just Randy that's continuing the verbal assault, but, Randy's fanboy army on Twitter suddenly starts chiming in, and it's just a giant mess at that point. And I want to point out that there was a video that showed even more of these amazing tweets, because I haven't had a chance to read them, from Smash JT, and I was just like, why did this go on for so long? We should have just brushed it aside and just moved along now. Randy had his little bitch fit and backed himself into a corner that he didn't need to do to himself to begin with. And there you have it. And then because of this now, a lot of other stuff is coming out against Randy. Like I mentioned, just a couple, was it today or yesterday, I posted a link in our Discord from David Eddings, who, voices Claptrap on Borderlands, and he straight up was just saying, he's like, you know what, I would have been happy to have voiced the character for free for the third game if he had just paid me back the royalties owed and made a public apology saying sorry for beating the crap out of me at the Marriott Hotel. And that's something that just shocked the hell out of me. That how is this man, who is a CEO of a company that, has so many ups and downs, is still allowed to be in such a position that he is just not shining a good light on the company itself. Like, what do you think of that, Mark?
I mean, we don't know what the situation is insofar as it relates to that. Like, we can't, that's speculation. It's, allegedly things of that nature. What I will say is, if that did happen, I would not be surprised. And I think it's very telling that Randy Pitchford, as a person who runs a video game company, is such that you can believe, yeah, he assaulted this guy. Like, I have no difficulty believing that he assaulted this guy in the lobby of a fucking hotel. Like, that requires no creative thought from me whatsoever. Pitchford himself is just a very frustrating person publicly, because he very much makes everything into a major production. which is not great in general. And in more than a few cases, like somebody had presented it as like something he had said recently, but he has said a few different times that he's on the spectrum, and like he kind of sort of leans into that as a way of attempting to, I don't really know exactly what he's going for here, but it sort of feels like he's trying to lean into that as a method of justifying why he does what he does on social media. And I'm like,
on the spectrum, are you talking about he's saying that he is on the autistic spectrum? Or are you saying he's on the really? And he's going to use that as an excuse. Look, I am on the spectrum. Both my children are on the spectrum. In no way, shape, or form have I ever used being on the spectrum as an excuse to justify or even rationalize any kind of outburst that I have ever had.
Yeah, I mean, I have other friends who are on the spectrum, who are incredibly understanding people, who are like, if I do or say something that is hurtful on some level to you, please let me know. And they seek clarity in all things. They want to be clear. They want to be careful with that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have fucking crazy Twitter outbursts about shit like this and then say, "Oops, I'm on the spectrum. My B, dog." And it's like,
yeah, no.
Like, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I don't. If he is, that's fine. Like, okay, he is, whatever. That is not a thing that you can put out there as a way of excusing the way that you are behaving. It's not. Like, there has to be a point where you as a person step back and say, you know what? Multiple times I have handled this badly. Like, I need to do something else. And I can understand, somebody who maybe has a limited support network, maybe has, limited capability to appropriately get themselves to the point where, like, some of my friends are, where, like, they didn't have, like, supportive parents, maybe they didn't have the right kind of support network when they were growing up, they don't have the right kind of support network now, etc. Randy fucking Pitchford runs a goddamn video game company. He has enough money, he has enough time to get himself into a position where he can deal with this effectively and not scream at fucking video game journalists about shit.
Mm-hmm. So, now, here's the thing about being on the spectrum. And you're right. He has the money and the time. He has the ability to get himself networked, to, get the help he needs to get himself better and all that other stuff, if he's on the spectrum and not using it as an excuse. What do you say about the kid that was on the spectrum who had the plans to go and assassinate Trump 2 years ago? And he had no idea that he was in major trouble after he got arrested. He had no idea of the consequences. He thought he was going home the next day. This is an article I read about this kid who flew out from London all the way out to Vegas to assassinate Trump. And he thought, it was just another day in the park and he'd get to go home. He didn't understand anything. Randy has no right to be fucking saying he's on the spectrum.
No, I mean, like, let's be clear. He can certainly say that he is. Like,
he can say it, but
that's a thing that's worthwhile to know.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel that would inform your interactions with this person, if he feels that this would inform interactions with him. But yeah, like, he is very much in a position where he can, where he can work with this, where he has the resources available to him to not be a piece of shit to other people, and he has chosen not to do so for one reason or another. And it's just frustrating that, like, him putting this out there as almost a sort of defense for what he says and does hurts people who are and don't behave like that, or who are and don't have the ability to have a support network, have the necessary tools in place to help themselves to the level that he could. Like, to me, that's just fucked. That's just damaging for people in that position, because it's look at this guy. It's I don't want to keep bringing his name up, but like it's Randy Pitchford is a big name, relatively speaking, in our media.
Mm-hmm.
And that negatively presents on multiple different levels when he behaves that way. It's kind of in the position of, like with Felix, where you are a big name, you represent us as the gaming media, and this is how you fucking act.
Yep. But now, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I just really just find Randy's behavior to just really be out of control lately, and if he is, on a spectrum as he says he is, I really hope he gets the help he needs to make himself a better human being, because that's really all you want out of this. It's just for him to be a better human being at the end of the day. If he truly acknowledges his faults.
I mean, as far as that goes, he's been saying that shit since 2017, and nothing has changed as far as that goes. I don't see him doing anything to change that particular aspect of himself one way or the other. So, that's not going to happen. He's not going to change himself in any meaningful way as a person, I don't think.
Oh, well.
I just, honestly, I'm kind of at the point right now where it's like, I don't really know how to feel about the guy. I feel like he's definitely under a lot of stress. I definitely feel like he's under a lot of pressure because Battleborn did not do it all well. And I sort of feel like Borderlands 3 is like the thing that Gearbox at this point needs to stay solvent.
I mean, at this point, if you look at it, I mean, the Borderlands franchise as a whole is the only good, successful series that has come from Gearbox. They've picked up properties like the Alien franchise, and Colonial Marines was a bust. They picked up Duke Nukem Forever. That was a big bust. They just do not have a very good, solid track record of consistently good games that have not really sold that well. And the Borderlands franchise is, by and far, their best seller. So it's like I can definitely understand all that stress and pressure of trying to make their golden child the best he can be, but at the end of the day, you still have to be a better person.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, but speaking of better people, let's talk about Riot Games. And today was the inevitable day that they've been planning about. The employees over at Riot Games, they had their walkout that was planned as a protest for trying to improve conditions at the company. Amongst the improved conditions they want is the ability to not be harassed and be able. Oh crap! Give me a second to get my thoughts together again on this topic. There has been a lot of problems going on at Riot Games over the course of the last few years, relegating to both physical and sexual harassment, which is something we've talked about here on the show a few times. New people getting hired, literally signing away or waiving their right to, file a suit if they are feeling that they are being wronged within the company grounds, and pretty much just the company not following through on requests of just trying to improve the environment, making it more diverse, and all that stuff. And the employees have literally had enough. And after much planning for the last few months, today was the day. And about a good chunk of the employees at the midday work shift, 150 people plus, walked out. And Mark, how would you like to take it from here?
I'm going to tell a story right now.
Okay.
I'm going to leave out relevant details for what I assume will be obvious reasons as the story unfolds, but I want you to just keep in mind that this is the thing I have been holding on to for a while.
Okay.
So, a few years ago, one of the now former writers for Die Hard Game Fan, who is a big friend of Alex's, submitted an article to the website. And Alex had asked me to read it over because he didn't want to publish it in the condition that it was in. And he wanted to get a second opinion on it. And I read the article, and the article basically was this person talking about how they had gone to a convention with their significant other and had met some people from Riot.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people spoke with this person and the significant other at length, and eventually coerced the significant other into an unwelcome, unconsensual, compromising position. Nothing was ever done about this to the best of my knowledge. And I absolutely did not want to publish that story because you can't allege this kind of shit about these kind of people just on the net like that without it becoming a major fucking legal facade. A major fucking legal farce, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would have been the end of a whole lot of fucking people. And like, to this day, I still very much resent that this person put that article on the site and expected that we would be okay publishing it. And while I'm of the impression that Alex is probably still friends with that person, I am not and would never be, because the fact that you would put somebody who is your friend in that position, in that legal position, is fucked. Deeply fucked. But while I ultimately, said, no, don't publish this, I retained that information pretty much from that point onward. And at that point, I knew virtually nothing about League of Legends. I knew that it was a game that people played that was based off of a game that was based off of Warcraft 3. And that was as far as my knowledge of it went. Years and years after the fact, we've seen how Riot Games has exploded as a company, popularity-wise, how they've grown into the largest MOBA company at the moment. They've eclipsed basically everything but Dota 2, and even then it's still like League of Legends is number one, Dota 2 is number two. And I never forgot about that story that was written about a person in that company who did this. So the idea that Riot Games is a toxic work environment, the idea that Riot Games has, a toxicity problem, a sexism problem, absolutely is not a surprise to me in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hearing stuff about people you don't know, you've never heard of, and the sort of things that they would do, presumably, again, allegedly, in the kind of situation where they were not at the time a household name in gaming, and this is just like a thing that would happen. Like, keeping that in mind, it was, no, I have absolutely no difficulty believing that this would be a thing that Riot would be accused of. I have no difficulty believing that the culture in Riot is shit. No difficulty whatsoever believing that it's fucking terrible over there. So with that in mind, I am 110% supportive of the idea of these employees walking out and I hope it actually will lead to some kind of significant change in that company and not, all 150 of them slowly over a period of years being overturned and replaced by people who are cheaper and will shut the hell up.
Yep. There's been talk about unionization within the video game industry. Do you feel like
And
that is something that should have happened?
Oh yeah, they fucking should have years ago. That comes back to the problem of video games constantly want to be, the new movies in a lot of respects. They want the same respect that movies get. They want the same, they want the same high level of media attention, the same high level of representation that stuff like film and movies gets. But video game companies don't actually want to do what movie companies do. You have union projects in the world of film, and people are on a union, people are taken care of by the union to whatever extent to ensure that they're not just that their working conditions are optimal, but to ensure that they're getting a fair wage and things of that nature. So the idea that gaming would be like, well, we want to do this sort of thing where we have hundreds of thousands of people involved in making a product in the same way, but we want to basically be able to have them work for like $10 an hour, working 120 hours a week in some cases, and then just like let them go at the end of the project is like, no, fuck you. It's no different from all of the other problems that we're consistently having with gaming, because gaming wants to be they want to eat their cake and have it too, So they want to be able to have all of these big budget, many people projects like films do, but they don't actually want to take care of people. They want to be able to have the sort of same public recognition and response and respect that films do, but they don't actually like it when there are journalists who do anything around their products like happens in films. If film information gets leaked, the film companies are just like whatever, and they move on with their day. They in many cases directly work with journalists to a certain extent to make sure that their stuff is covered appropriately. And if stuff gets leaked, or if journalists, find out information about a film before it happens, they're just like, okay, and they move on with their day. Meanwhile, Kotaku leaks some stuff and they get blackballed by multiple different companies.
Yep.
And films, we know how much basically every film costs that has come out in the past several decades. We know how much money these films have made. You don't know anything about any game that comes out.
Unless it's a colossal failure.
Even if it's a colossal failure, like, we don't have numbers. We don't know budget. We don't know, we know it failed. We know it succeeded. We only know that stuff succeeded when people announce, exact numbers. When they're like, well, it did this much. If your game fucking failed, we don't know what its sales numbers were. We just know that you thought it was a failure.
Excuse me. But now, with that, I mean, it's gotten to a point, yeah, like you were saying, these video game companies want to be like the movie industry with bigger cash flow for their budget for their games, a bigger, team, and just everything that goes with it, all these perks. But then there's those companies that, don't feel like they need that stuff, and then they treat their employees like crap, forcing them to work weekends, forcing them to work double shifts, getting even worse, when they come down to crunch time. And it's just it's stuff like that really you do need a union to help represent you. I mean, I do know for a fact that the union has been good for people in many cases. Like if you in your area, there's Giant owns a chain of stores called Stop and Save. I'm sure you're familiar with the strike that they just had that was successful. After like a week and a half, the company went ahead and, I wouldn't say met their demands, but, gave them some reasonable offers in regards to the healthcare pay increase and all that other stuff. And the union was looking out for them and their well-being. But then you have unions like some in Philadelphia that are just straight up greedy little mongers. My little story right here. It's a short one. I used to go to church with Glenn Beck, radio host
I am
Glenn
so
Beck.
sorry. I am so fucking sorry.
He was actually a very nice guy to me, but whatever. He was telling me about a time when he was here in Philadelphia. He was trying to set up a show, but he couldn't get anything done because the unions were constantly harassing the crap out of him. Like, for every project that he was trying to do, the union was screaming at him, you have to hire a guy just for that specific job, and you have to pay him. And one time, thought he was just doing a nice thing by buying a crapload of bottled water and bringing it to them as they were setting up like a convention or something, or a show he was doing at a theater, and they flipped out on him saying, no, you have to hire another union guy to be able to serve and bring in that water. And I mean, that is absolutely like ludicrous right there, that you pinch, you're literally squeezing out every dime you can just to stick it to somebody or whatever. And that there's always good and there's always bad when it comes to a union, of course.
Oh yeah, I mean there's good and bad in anything as far as that goes, and unions are no different. I mean we've if you're old enough, you've heard about the Teamsters Union and everything associated with all of that. So it's very much a case of the problem being that that negative representation in unions is frequently leveraged as a way of saying, well, unions sucked. Unions have problems, so let's just not do a union. Mm-hmm. And I mean, sure, but by the alternative comparison, it's, people in gaming in particular is seeing a lot of people just getting royally fucking boned because there is no representation at all. So you've got people who are working egregiously large amounts of hours for something just above minimum wage. And then it's like, oh, well, if you get to the end of it, maybe we'll hire you full time. And then you get to the end of it and get the fuck out.
Yeah. Or
the stories have been coming out about NeverRealm, where, they've been having people go through that 3, 4, 5 times in a row in some cases. And that people are just abusive in the environment, that they're just treated like shit. That, in one case they were talking about that there's one women's bathroom in the facility that has been converted into a gender neutral bathroom. But it's just because 99% of the people that work there are guys. So dudes are just peeing with the fucking stall door open when women come in there. And it just sounds like a fucking absolute madhouse that anybody with any degree of actual control would be able to bring into some kind of reasonable shape. And gaming just doesn't want that.
No.
I don't think Riot is going to be, the first gaming shop that has a union. And I definitely think that whatever gaming, because I've heard, tales of even smaller game developers who are they run 5-person shows, and they're like, I don't like unions. Independent developers who don't like unionization because they run a 5-person show and they don't want that impacting them in any way. So, I don't know who the first union shop is going to be if gaming is going to get a union. Because, we've been talking about wrestling getting a union for decades, and that's never going to fucking happen either.
No.
If John Oliver fucking dunks on the WWE for the shit that they do, and the most that they do to change their presentation is Roman Reigns comes out with dry hair once. That's, that's not going to fucking... Seriously, he pointed out that Roman Reigns had perpetually wet hair.
Yeah, he always has wet hair.
Monday he came out his hair was dry as a bone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's if that's the extent of what's going to happen to the wrestling company in the US at this point, if that's the extent they're going to take any of this shit seriously, gaming is not going to take the shit seriously, and anybody who tries to unionize is going to get fucked.
And let's be truthfully honest, if there was ever a time for the game industry for people to start unionizing, it would have been the late 90s, early 2000s, when companies like EA were at their worst in regards to how they treated their employees. The same thing can be said about Activision in the mid to late 2000s, when they were, Bobby was just was running that company with a tight fist. I mean, even in the mid '90s, we were hearing stories about people in the Japanese game industry. They were working way too much, and the conditions sucked horribly. And there were even times where people couldn't go home, and they were sick as a dog. We all know about the story about Team Andromeda working on Panzer Dragoon Saga, and one of the employees died working on the game, which is a very sad and tragic thing. And let's be honest, as bad as we talk about the game industry in the United States and how people are treated, Japan, it's a hell of a lot worse. Especially with how the work mentality is thrust upon their heads, into their heads at a young age, in terms of work ethic and, just shut up and head down and just knuckle on through.
Yeah, and I feel like if any company was going to be the one to lead the charge on that, it would be Warner Bros. Or Disney, because they already have union shop shit going on in their facilities. But I feel like the fact that they have union shit going on already with their development of, films and other such media is the exact reason why they're going to be like, no, keep that shit away from our video game stuff. So I am not expecting that to happen anytime soon.
Now, in regards to the Riot Game walkout, of course, there was a small update about it in regards to no talks are being started or anything else in regards to that, and there probably never will be, but they are saying that they are doing a plan. They are planning another walkout. They're not specifying when or where, so they are definitely trying to make an example. They're trying to make sure they're loud and heard. At the end of the day, I just really want what's best for these people. The game industry, game developers, game testers, programmers, they are just some really underpaid, hardworking individuals who get so much shit on them, to be truthfully honest. And I think that if games weren't as rushed as they are, they would definitely end up in much better conditions if you have, a healthy staff that's actually happy and enjoying what they're doing, if you know what I mean. But, that's my thought. How about you?
I don't even know, dude, to be honest.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing that we're at it's 50 years into the gaming industry's lifespan. That's as far back as, I would say, the early 70s with the Magnavox Odyssey, and just conditions for the work environment, sexual harassment, physical abuse, verbal abuse, just total mindfuckery, and all that other stuff just seem to keep getting worse and worse as time goes by, and it just
And it's at the end of the day, the thing that I think is the most frustrating about all of it is that, like, the thing that is, these conversations are happening and they're good, but we're not really getting a lot of buy-in on this from the overall gaming community, which is frustrating. Like, there's some people who are, involved in this conversation to some level or another.
Yep.
But it's just, I don't know, it's just very frustrating in a lot of cases.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I would say that is definitely
and like the fact of, like, there's just so many people who are complaining about the fact that, oh, well, we have, the Mortal Kombat characters aren't as sexy as they were. Like, that's the conversation that, like, people are having. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Sonya Blade doesn't have boobs. What the fuck? Oh my god, we're gonna lose our minds. Get the fuck out of here, guys.
Yeah, I'm like, of all the things you could be mad about Sonya Blade about, that's the thing that you pick, not the fact that she's being voice acted by fucking Ronda Rousey. Get out of here.
You're gonna all flip and lose your shit because Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3 is never coming to the United States, but you're gonna turn a blind eye to people at Riot Games being treated like shit. A programmer for the deep what's the name of that stupid virtual group they created? One of the artists who worked on a character model for that virtual idol group, getting fired after 9 months of creating that character model. They'll turn a blind eye to that, of course. But I think that's a good place to leave it for the for the night. So, Mark,
Yeah.
do you have anything going on this weekend with your 2 streams?
Hopefully I'll be back to regular streaming. It's really going to depend on how my anxiety stuff goes. I was able to do the Saturday stream reasonably, but like it's still kind of touch and go as like I'm still waiting for my medication to do what it's supposed to be doing, hopefully quicker. So, you can follow me on Twitter over at MarkBWriting if you want to keep up to date on the current events of that, but I will do what I can.
Mm-hmm.
How about your streams?
Well, every Monday is Monster Hunter Monday. The starting time flux. Yesterday we started a little bit after 7. Depends on when I get home from work, really. Me and Reggie or whoever is joining me, we usually start around like 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Stream till the cows come home. Every Tuesday we're doing something here on GVN Live. Next week is another GVN Live Plays. We have to talk about what we're going to play at some point, sir, if you're feeling up to it. If not, I would love your commentary as I'm playing something and looking really bad at it.
Yeah, I mean, at the bare minimum, I can make fun of you while you play something. That would be fine.
Or you can suggest a really bad game and just, suffer with me. We'll see what happens. And, of course, every Wednesday, including tomorrow, it's my 3 Vets and a Noob show. A couple hours of comedy and camaraderie. My friends Lance, Rico, and sometimes here, sometimes not, Matt, will be playing Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So tune in for that if you want a good laugh and hear us screaming at each other about what kind of fuckwads we are. Outside of that, nothing really else is going on. I am in the process of getting ready to do the next episode of game adaptations. We teased it at the end of the last episode. I read all 7 issues of the Valiant Comics Legend of Zelda comic. I have to reread the Nintendo Power Zelda comic, so that is going to be something fun. It's going to be different to review. I don't think many people actually reviewed the Zelda comics before at all. I have to double check on YouTube, but it should be a very interesting video. I've never done like anything that isn't a game review or a movie review because we've been doing game adaptations to film. Now we're going to do game adaptation to comics. So that should be very interesting. And with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this interesting episode of GVN Live. Next episode will be... where's my calendar at?
The 21st.
The 21st. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mark. And Jan should hopefully be back with us that day if her project, like I mentioned, has not been extended. Thank you guys for tuning in. Deuces.
Have a good one.